If you want your voice to hit like a headshot and your desk to look the part, then this is the Marvo Mic 07 Blast 60. Today I'm testing its looks, its sound, and most importantly, whether it's worth your cash. Let's find out today. Hello folks and welcome back to the channel, and today we have the Marvo Mic 07 Blast 60 microphone in for some of the usual Gadget Joe review treatment. What exactly is the Blast 60? Well, this is a USB gaming microphone aimed at streamers, creators and anyone who wants better comms than a headset mic. It's plug and play, desk friendly and packed with gamer leaning styling. I'll cover design and build first, then performance with real world tests, and finally value, where it sits against popular budget rivals and even more expensive rivals. The Blast 60 can be found for around the lower £30 price point. But before we take a closer look at the mic itself, let's have a quick look at the unboxing experience. The box is very on theme with Marvo's setups, with a lot of bright reds, blacks and whites and high quality imagery. Lots of details on the rear, with some specs of the mic itself. Inside the box you get a user manual and a Marvo sticker. The mic itself sits inside a thin moulded plastic housing, and then you have this random piece of plastic that doesn't really seem to have any purpose at all other than maybe a strange fidget toy. Next you have a USB-A to C cable and a fixing bracket for mounting the mic to a boom arm, and that's pretty much it for the unboxing. Nice and simple and to the point. Let's start with the reason a lot of people will click buy on a microphone like that, and that's the look of the microphone. The Blast 60 leans hard into the Scorpion identity, angular lines, bold grille geometry and gamer forward accents. It's eye-catching without being a toy. On camera it reads as purpose built and it matches RGB desk setups nicely. The body mixes metal and high density plastics. The grille feels nice and sturdy, there's minimal flex on it when pressed. The finish does a good job as well at hiding fingerprints, which matters if you're constantly adjusting angles between streams. Desk space is precious and the included base is compact enough for a keyboard mouse setup. And the centre of gravity feels right. There's no wobbly top heavy drama if you nudge it. If you use a boom arm, the weight is friendly for even the cheaper, less sturdy arms. You get the essentials right where you want them. There's a gain control that turns smoothly with enough resistance to avoid accidental bumps, a hardware mute that's fast and reliable, and a clear status indicator so you never talk into a muted mic. Connectivity is straightforward USB via the included cable. RGB is tasteful here, accent rather than floodlight. It adds a soft presence in the frame instead of blowing out highlights. If you stream with a dark background, those accents can help the mic read as a deliberate part of your shot. It's a really quite attractive little unit as a whole. You can flick through the RGB modes too via the touch button on the top, and there are a pretty decent amount of presets available. Some may even prefer it off altogether, and that is an option here too, which is nice to see. The included stand feels substantial and well put together, with a nice shock absorbing elastic going around it to allow the mic to effectively float inside the unit and assist in removing noises when the desk is hit or moved. It can be removed too if you wish to do so, of course, but if you're having it set up for audio recording, then I would strongly recommend keeping it in the frame. Before I put it to a real world test, very shortly I'll briefly go over the key specs of a Blast 60 mic. I will flash them up on the screen in more detail, so if you do want to know more finer details, feel free to pause or screenshot this part now. The Blast 60 features a mic sensitivity rated for -32 decibels with a 3 decibel tolerance range. The frequency response is 20 Hz up to 20 kHz, meaning it falls within the basics of human hearing and will accurately produce sounds from deep bassy notes to high-pitched tones, meaning it's a solid all-arounder microphone unit. The Blast 60 has a mic impedance of 2.2k ohms, which is pretty common for condenser microphones, which means it will work well just simply plugged into your PC via the mic, but can be more finely optimised when connecting to a mixer or preamp that runs USB. The voltage runs at 5 volt DC power with a maximum current of 250 milliamps. It is a dual function microphone that functions both as a cardioid, and omnidirectional, which can be switched via this control dial here. Omnidirection will allow a 360-degree audio pickup, ideal for group recordings, whereas cardioid creates a heart-shaped pickup area but focuses mostly on the front and a little bit on the sides and none from the back, making it ideal for a single person speaking into it. It's not a particularly large microphone, but it's not exactly small either. It comes in at 106mm by 100mm in width and depth and 214mm in height, with a 390g weight with a stand. It does come in black or white too, so if you would prefer a white mic for your white setup, that is an option. Right, now to test it, I'm going to take you over to Joe. This is a real world testing of the Marvo Mic 07 Blast 60 microphone. My setup is simple by just having me and the mic plugged in via USB to my laptop. I'm running Audacity software to capture a mic input. I'm not changing, raising, lowering or altering any recording, so what you're hearing now is a direct recording from me to this mic, unedited. I'm not running it from a boom arm, just the included stand, and I'm not using any form of pop filter or sock on the microphone to see how it performs with peaks of my voice. I'm not talking loud or too quiet, just my normal presenting voice that I would use on my standard videos. First of all, I'm going to be using the cardioid setup, which is a little heart-shaped symbol on the dial at the rear, talking directly into the mic around 6 to 10 inches away from it. This should in theory pick up the audio nice and clearly. There's no background noises in my studio. I'm now going to rotate the microphone to either side, which should still pick up my voice. Hopefully not quite as loudly, but still somewhat clearly. And then obviously finally I'm going to rotate the microphone away from me, and this should not pick up my voice. Naturally you will still likely hear me due to the studio being relatively quiet, but it should be noticeably reduced. Now I'm going to switch to the omnidirectional mode, and there should be a difference once again. Now in theory I should be able to talk to the microphone from any direction and it should pick up my voice nice and clearly regardless of the direction that the microphone is facing. These are also good little tests to see the effectiveness of this shock mount whilst I move the mic around. If it's doing its job, it should reduce any sharp knocks or movements from the audio. I'm now going to try and adjust the live gain control dial on the microphone to see how well it works for this. So I'm just going to repeat a random sentence and reduce and raise the gain of the control so that you should hear a difference in the audio pickup volumes as a whole. This is the Blast 60 wired microphone by Marvo. This is the Blast 60 wired microphone by Marvo. This is the Blast 60 wired microphone by Marvo. This is the Blast 60 wired microphone by Marvo. From what I can visually see on Audacity on the screen, I can physically see differences when carrying out all of those tests, so it should present in your audio when I listen back to this. Granted, this is a somewhat limited test as I'm just doing voice from me only, but you can get a good idea of the audio pickup, quality and properties from this. In an ideal world, I would have tested it in a group setting or sang into a microphone to see how that picks up. But I can assure you, I sing like a rusty gate. I'm not saying I'm a bad singer, but the last time I sung, people started taking photos of me in the street thinking I was Bigfoot in distress. But yeah, anyway, that's my real life testing of the Marvo Blast 60. Now, back to me again. Thank you very much, me. So yeah, the testing of a mic shows some interesting results. The sound is nice and clear. It's not amazingly loud, but it's still plenty loud enough. Comparing it to a microphone I'm using here, which is a Hollyland Lark M2 lav mic, it does sound a little bit quieter, but it does, however, appear to have a little bit more depth thanks to a bigger microphone sensor. The vocals are nice and crisp, really clear and sound very good. It does a fantastic job of diffusing the vocals without the need of a pop filter or sock. The P's, B's, T's all sound clear without peaking at any point. Although if you're using this for vocal work, it wouldn't harm you to include a pop filter, but it's nice to know that it's not needed. It doesn't change my vocal profile either. The sound of my voice sounds how my voice sounds, which seems a stupid thing to say, but some cheaper mics often mask your voice or struggle to replicate the frequencies, and this does a good job. Now my voice isn't necessarily the deepest, but it's on the deeper side of things and it portrays that pretty well. The cardioid function works surprisingly well too, with a distinct difference when talking to it from the sides, and then the rear is almost completely cut off. The audio you did hear was when it was facing the opposite direction, with just the vocals that filled the room. Switching to the omnidirectional mode was an instant vocal difference. It actually did pick up indeed audio from all directions, and the audio was again nice and clear, and actually I found that the audio levels were increased as a whole in the omnidirectional mode, meaning the volume in general was a little bit higher than the cardioid setup. I feel this would make a great podcast or meeting mic on the latter setting, and a great mic too for vocals and such, making it a strong all-rounder. The only thing I did find a little bit off, well, not off, but a little bit difficult to work with, was this gain control dial at the bottom. The audio gain difference is very minimal. The low didn't particularly sound greatly lower, and the same with the higher gain. There is a difference, but it's not too noticeable. Also, the dial has to be rotated multiple times for it to take effect too. It would be great to see some form of indicator of the current gain on the microphone, even if it was a light showcasing the levels, as there is no real way to tell without the software like Audacity physically showing the difference as you speak. The included shock absorber works flawlessly. I've been moving the mic around all over the place in that video, and in fact at one point of the testing I even full on hit the mic stand as I was moving it, and it didn't catch a single one of them. It isolated the mic so well that it completely absorbed all movement and left an uninterrupted audio capture. And that pretty much sums up my review of the Marvo Blast 60 mic, and it brings me on to my final thoughts of the microphone as a whole. Well, let's start off with the pros of a mic, beginning with the audio quality. The audio quality from this mic is very impressive. It's nice, crisp, clear, and picks up vocals very well across all sorts of frequencies. It's got a nice loud input right out of the box without any need for a mixer or preamp. The cardioid and omnidirectional modes, both within one single mic, can make this a formidable little unit that can cater for a huge range of uses. It will perform very well for singing, voiceover, gameplay, chat and more, and then also function well as a group meeting mic, all at the turn of the dial at the rear. It looks absolutely fantastic. For a mic that costs as little as it does, around a lower £30 price point, it definitely looks like a much more premium model. It doesn't look cheap and plasticky like some. The materials used are fantastic and well built too. It feels robust and sturdy. The RGB is tasteful and can be switched off if you don't want it at all. Marvo have done a fantastic job with the build. It's literally plug and play. All you need to do is plug it into the USB ports and you are good to go. Some mics have XLR connections, which means that you have to then get an additional adapter or an audio mixer, preamp or DAC to make them work. And then for the cons, it's pretty minimal on this unit, which is very nice to see. The biggest one really is that gain dial. It needs some form of indicator for the levels, or at the very least a bump stop on the dial that only allows you to go so high or so low when rotated, but will in turn will give you an actual physical sense of the levels that it's set at. The dial is nice and it feels nice to use and is a welcome addition, but don't get me wrong, they could do a little bit more to make it clearer to use. Realistically, I cannot pick any more negatives to it. If I really wanted to, I probably could find something, but I genuinely think that this is a fantastic little product, especially considering the price point too. It performs and feels like a microphone twice or even 3 or 4 times its price. There will be audiophiles or professional users that will need more features, higher sensitivities, etc. and more, but then that is a different market altogether and a completely different cost level too. For a plug and play mic that will do gameplay, voice chat with your mates, record high quality audio voiceovers, work as a main mic for video streaming, recording or singing, and also function as a solid omnidirectional group microphone to get vocals from all angles of a room, this is pretty much everything you could possibly need. Gets a huge thumbs up from me and really shows you don't need to spend mega money for quality gear. I have reviewed plenty of microphones and used plenty of microphones before that don't sound quite as good as this. As always, I will leave a link down below as to where you can pick one up for yourself, in black or white. Once you're down there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's it from me for now. I've been Gadget Joe, and this has been a rather impressive Marvo Blast 60 microphone, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.